Hello, in this video series I'll be showing you how to create springs with Solidworks from simple straight to complex and deformed. If you find value here, please like, subscribe, Patreon, buy merch, or buy from affiliate links if you see any. Alright, on to the video. So that's all well and good if you are just trying to represent something roughly. But if you want something more accurate, more photorealistic, then you would likely want the ends looped tighter, or even maybe ground flush, ground flat, or maybe rotated 90 degrees or to have hooks on the ends if in an extension spring, or loops, could be double loops, or maybe you want the spring curved. And so this simplified model doesn't do the job. So we will start another new part. And from here, I'll lay out a defining sketch to show what we want. So let's say we'll have, just to lay it out roughly, let's say we have 2 coils at this end and 2 coils at this end, and have them meet in the middle. So what we'll end up doing is, let's go from the top plane here, create my circle, make it, call it, put a dimension on it, 1/2 inch, 0.5, enter, and create from here, create a helix, which is in features, curves, helix, and spiral. And if this wire diameter will be 0.1, then in order for it to be closed, we would want the pitch to be 0.1. So let's say pitch in revolutions, and let's say, now if I say 0.1, I think it might not quite work because it may be a 0 thickness. Let's see how that works out. We'll say we'll say 3 revolutions because we'll grind some of it away. Oops. And starting angle 0, that should be fine. And so okay there. So again, I'll turn these axes off. So I'll select the endpoint, control to multi-select, select the path, and control plus to create a plane. And okay. I'll create a circle. Project this with the G key in order to get the endpoint. Then I'll just delete this again, and I will fix this, and I'll call this diameter, put a dimension on, D for dimension, 0.1, and something happened. Okay. So now R for rebuild out of that sketch, sweep, which I believe is control, how am I doing? Control Shift S for sweep, yeah, that's my shortcut. Select the profile, select the path, click OK, and it did take it. Okay, I wasn't sure if that would be a 0 thickness, but because it's inclined, it probably makes it very slightly okay. Now from here, I want to grind the end off. So I selected the front face and initiate a sketch there by any sketch command. In this case, I did circle, but I actually want to do rectangle, and I'm going to do N for normal to look straight at it, and my rectangle will go, it should really go up to a full coil, so we don't get any of the flat end of the coil like from here to here wouldn't be good. So past that would probably be good. Debating how I want to handle this. Well, let's grind. Let's take that material off for now. We can adjust this to meet to suit our needs. Mid plane through both. Cutting that off. So now it's flat on the bottom, much like a real spring would be. Let's hide this path. And I'm not sure why the graphics are a little buggy here. That should be solid. Let's, if I can move that a little bit, and yeah, as soon as I go past that, for some reason, it doesn't like it. Is that? See, it's because they slightly intersect. So I'm going to adjust this pitch. Actually, I will adjust just to be more geometrically correct regarding the pitches and the turns, etc. I will change the diameter of the profile. Let's see what happens if I go 0.99. Rebuild. See, because we're getting a little intersection there. So I'm thinking if I could do away with the intersection, it will do away with this buggy not showing the surface. And I broke the software. Or it's thinking very hard. And it broke. So I will. Was that supposed to be point? Yeah, that should be 0.099, not 0.99. User malfunction, and it did it just sort of like as I intended. Okay, so now these are no longer intersecting quite, and so this software is much happier. But we do have probably an extra turn on this, and we're not aligned with our initial layout sketch. So since our let's do this. I'm going to the helix main sketch. I'm going to roll back to before that, and I'm going to create a new plane offset from the top plane, 0.1. I'll flip the offset so it's below, the new plane is below the top plane. And now I will redefine this sketch plane, edit sketch plane, and instead of the top plane, I will select plane 2, and that will drop everything down to plane 2. There are a few different ways I could accomplish this. I think this one is the best bet. I could potentially just move the body, but then the initial path wouldn't follow, and I may use that later. So now I'll roll to the end to get all my features back. That would be Control-Shift-Alt-R, roll to the end, and I need to correct this because I want this to be right at the top plane, which would match the origin. So select the origin in the tree, or you know what? Let's just turn on the sketches because I have this sketch as my sort of skeleton sketch, and so I'll select that edge and I'll select this edge and I'll make them collinear. And so now my subtract cuts off the end of the spring right at this plane here, at this line of my defining initial sketch. And so I would like to duplicate that at the other end. You know what, I'm going to adjust this helix and call it 2.5 revolutions instead of 3. So I think that's more correct. Yeah, so now I have truly two full, well, I have one full loop there. So now I need to have the same thing up here. A few different ways I could do this, and it will be tricky to align the, it would be tricky to get these to align at the other end, but what I'll do is I will, if I mirror them, that won't work because then they'll be opposite pitch. So I'll do a circular pattern and rotate this up here 180 degrees and keep both, but I need to define an axis. So I will go back into this main sketch and I will create a line from here to here. I will make this line totally vertical, and I'm going to select these four lines and make them all equal length, and then I'll select these and make these equal length just to make things look a little better. We lost our midpoint, so let's see, select both of those, coincident, now we're midpoint, and this should be ½ inch diameter, doesn't really matter. This should be 0.2, doesn't really matter, and we'll call the overall length, we were initially talking 2, but so now I need to define an axis for this circular pattern, and so I just need a point here, and so I can just do a point, I guess, Control P, probably the simplest thing. I could do it a lot of different ways. I could do a point, I could do a circle and use the center point. I could create a line and use the endpoint. We'll do that for now, because it's probably what I would have done in the first place. Actually, I probably would have done a circle, but I didn't want to confuse anyone that it needed to be a circle. So I will rebuild and get out of this sketch. From here, I will select this point. I'm going to create an axis to rotate this up to here, 180 degrees. So to create that axis, I will select this point in the front plane, and then Control/ key is create axis in my shortcuts. You could also do this up in the reference geometry, create axis, and OK. So now I have this axis, which will go away if I click off it, but if I enable the views of all my axes, let me hide these three to avoid confusion. And so now I have my axis showing. So if I hit the / key, that toggles the visibility of the axes, plus key, visibility of my planes, asterisk key, visibilities of my sketches. Anyway, I'm going to do a circular pattern, so I'll pre-select this axis, as I like to pre-select, it's a little quicker, and select circular pattern and check bodies here. If I did features and faces here, it would start to allow me, but because it's a body, it would fail. So I will say bodies, and then I'll select this, and 180 or 362 gives you 180, and hit OK. And so now I have these, and the pitches are the same direction. So theoretically, I can make a coil, a helix, from here to here. The tricky part will be getting the exact distance and the right amount of, an even amount of turns, basically. So I guess we will determine the height, and then we will make the helix defined by length and turns, and then it will automatically determine the pitch. So if I say, I need to measure, I want to show my path again, so I can select this endpoint, and this is halfway, and so if I say Alt M will measure, and that is just in the Y direction, The Y component is 0.85 inches, and so my overall helix length will be twice that, so that will be 1.7 inches. So I'll create another plane from this point parallel to the top plane. Select both of those with the control key, and then control plus creates my new plane. And on that plane I will create a circle, and again it's this 0.5 inch. You don't even really need that to be the correct number, but we'll do it just because it's easier to follow. And I don't seem to be on the origin, so let's get that on the origin. Or what I can do is I can select that and select this center line from another sketch, and I can say pierce, and so now it is there. And so with this I will create a helix, features, curves, helix and spiral, and I will say height and revolutions. And so the height will be 1.7 inches, which was when I measured 0.85. Multiply that by 2, 1.7. Revolutions we will say 8. Maybe we'll be good. Looks good. And we want to adjust the starting point, our starting angle. It's, as you can see, it's off by 180 degrees, so starting angle 180 degrees. Okay, and that should line up to there, and it does. And so now I need to create another sweep, and I can actually use that face instead of a sketch. And select the path, and I don't want to merge, so options, and I say don't merge, and I'll show you why in a moment. So this is not a smooth transition, so these actually overlap very slightly, and there should be a very slight gap here, very slight, but it's there. And so what I'm going to do in order to get these to align more realistically is I will let's hide these paths, and let's toggle the sketches off, and let's hide this body. So right click and say hide, so I can select this face with ease. Actually, let's do both. Let's also hide this body. And so now I can move these faces slightly. Move face, this face, and this face. See, I don't want to extend them. I want to flip the direction, but I don't need to go that far, and this would make an odd shape. Let's do it just to show. Why do I have 3 faces selected? I'm not sure what the third face is, so I'll clear them. Select this face, select this face, and like so. Then I will go into my solid bodies folder. If you don't see that, you should be able to right click here, hidden, is this one? No, it is tree display. It is here, no. Hide show tree items. So then I can select solid bodies here, it says show, and other folders here. So explore this sometime. So anyway, so I will select both of these and click the eyeball to show them. So now they're back. And now you can see I have these gaps here. And so what I need to do is a loft from this face to this face, and click OK. And as you can see, it's just a straight shot from those. Kind of ugly, so I will make it better. I will edit the feature, and if I go into start end constraints, and I say for the start constraint we'll say tangency to the face, and for the end constraint tangency to the face. So now that should curve them nicely. which it did. And let's do that again up here. Loft from this to this. Now if I do something like this, it gets ugly. So be careful to align these green dots as close to straight along the path as you can, and tell them tangent, and tell this one tangent, and those should be pretty good. Now if this move face were too far, this would start to get a little goofy. So I'm actually going to make this very short distance. Although, actually, let me make sure these points are aligned pretty well, which they're not quite. That's probably pretty close. But it's still a little goofy. You can sort of see it's a little wavy, and so we'll just make this initial move face very small number. Let's call it 30 thousandths of an inch, and that should made it worse. let's check these. Yeah, see, these go a little goofy again. So let's just line these up and hit OK. How's this guy look? And that one looks good already. So that is how you can make a more realistic spring. Now, say I want to change the way we modeled this. It should be a very robust model. Let's save this.